Greetings, Bassketeers. Josh Fossgreen here. Today we're going to look at polyrhythms applied to the bass a little bit more because they're fun and they're cool. And whether you want to incorporate these into your playing or not, it's really good to be familiar with these rhythms just so that you can keep up with drummers who might throw them in there. Because if they catch you unprepared, it can be bewildering. So we're going to look at another groove similar to the one we did last week. This time we're going to take it a little bit further. So to follow along today with Polyrhythm Bass Groove number 2, just click here and you can check out the sheet music and tablature to follow along today. We are going to be jamming with the D Lydian dominant scale, which is something that we haven't talked about on Josh Fossgreen channel before. Lydian dominant is one of the modes of the melodic minor scale, and it's just like the Lydian mode, except it's got a flat 7th, hence the dominant. You can also think of it as a Mixolydian with a sharp 4. So we're going to be playing with that as our harmonic basis, but basis, I love that pun. Just never get tired of it. Basis. Anyway, that's the harmonic component, but what we're really focusing on here is rhythm. So last week we were looking at the 4/3 polyrhythm, which is where we take a group of 3 beats of 4/16 notes, and rather than grouping them in 3 groups of 4, 1 eanda, 2 eanda, 3 eanda, we group it in 4 groups of 3. 1 eanda, 2 eanda, 3 eanda, 1 eanda, 2 eanda, 3 eanda. So we get 4 notes perfectly evenly spaced over the course of 3 beats. What we did in the last lesson is we did that 3-beat polyrhythm, and then on beat 4 we just filled it in with some filler so that we land back on beat 1 of the next measure to restart our 1-bar pattern. What we're going to do today is a 2-bar pattern. So now if you imagine we got 2 bars of 4/4, there's a bar line here. We got 8 quarter notes, which equals 32 16th notes. What we're going to do with those 8 beats, and if you remember that our 4/3 unit takes up 3 beats of 4/4 to do those 4 hits over the 3 beats of 4/4, we're going to do 2 of those chunks, so 3 beats plus another 3-beat chunk, that's 6 beats. Then we're going to have 2 beats at the end to tag the rhythm and loop back around after the end of the 2 bars. So hopefully that makes sense so far. It's a lot to process, and again, this is not for beginners so much. If this is not making sense to you so far, you might want to check out my Rhythm Basics series. I did a 4-part series to try to get you on the way to being up to speed with 16th notes and that world of subdivision and stuff before we start worrying about all this polyrhythm business. But anyway, assuming that we can proceed. So again, I'll just say it one more time. 2 bars of 4/4 equals 8 quarter notes, right? And going through our 4/3 polyrhythm once takes up 3 of those beats. So we do it once, 3 beats. Do it twice, up to 6 beats. Now we've got 2 beats at the end that we need to fill up so that we have an 8-beat unit. So what we're going to do is just do the first 2 beats of our 4/3 unit there, and you'll see what I mean when we get to exercise 1. So in the PDF, you can see all this mapped out visually, which can be very helpful with this kind of rhythmic stuff to see it visually. So what I've done there is I've written out our 2-bar rhythmic pattern on the top, and then on the bottom I've written out just the 16th note grid for the 2 bars so you can see where everything lines up, and I made that look all pretty with some green colors and stuff. So hopefully that visual reference is helpful too. And again, really the trick with this is just getting used to counting it, putting your accents in different places, and once you get used to it, it can be just as intuitive as feeling 1, 2, 3, 4, just feeling a basic backbeat or any other rhythm that feels comfortable for you. The reason that some rhythms feel comfortable to you is just the repetition of hearing them your whole life and playing them. So you just repeat, and then the rhythms that are now unfamiliar, you just add them to your bag of familiar rhythms, and that's really the point of exploring this little groove with you. Besides that, I think it's kind of fun. So again, just like last week, we've written a simple version of this where we're just playing a legato version of the rhythm. And then in exercise 2, we're going to add some extra notes in there and keep that rhythmic emphasis, just so you can see a couple different ways you could apply this same rhythmic concept. So again, just D Lydian dominant scale here. So root, flat 7, major 6, perfect 5th, then take that sequence down, flat 7, major 6, perfect 5th, sharp 4, and then walk back up the scale, 5, 6, 7. And that's it. So we're going to do a slow play along for exercise 1, and when you listen to the drum beat, you'll notice that the ride cymbal is just keeping time on the 8th notes, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and the kick drum is just, the snare drum is just hitting the backbeats, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and so basically the hands of the electronic robot drummer are just keeping time, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and the kick drum will be playing our polyrhythmic current with us, just to help you track that a little bit more. So here we go, slow down a little bit with the drums. Exercise 1. 1, 2, 3, 4. One of the challenges with polyrhythms is that you never know what else is going to be happening. The drummer might be doing the rhythm with you. There might be nobody keeping the 4/4 pulse feeling through this rhythmic figure, so it'll feel like you're in a new time signature except that you're not. Or the drummer might be keeping time the way I've programmed this beat, where you're still getting very consistent 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and feel. So, the more you play with this, the more you get a feel for those different contextual elements. So let's do this at full speed now. Exercise 1 again. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's it for exercise 1. Before we move on to the more advanced variation, you may want to, you don't have to, you may want to pause the video, whip out a metronome or your own drum machine, and just play with doing this rhythm figure, bum, 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 and stick some different notes on it, just to get a feel for using the rhythm as a framework to stick some notes in there. Like, I'll just doodle around. So I'm just taking that rhythmic figure, sticking some different notes on there, throwing maybe a couple little variations in at the last 2 beats of the 8-beat figure. Okay, ready or not, here we go with exercise 2, which is the advanced variation, otherwise known as the crazy fusion explosion variation. Basically what we're doing here, again, and I've indicated this with the accent symbols in the sheet music, we're keeping that same bum, 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 bum. Instead of holding each one of those groups of 3/16 notes as a dotted 8th note, we're playing it as 3/16 note groups. So the line is just going to sound like... It's just going to sound like a stream of 16th notes. But the accent pattern is moving through the polyrhythmic figure that we were playing explicitly in exercise 1. So you could just play this figure with no sense of polyrhythm. Just as 16th notes. But really the accents are on every group of 3. Until you get to the end. So here we go with a slowed down version of exercise 2 with the crazy drum beat you heard in the intro. 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. The note pattern is pretty simple, but just want to make sure it makes sense to you. What I'm doing is I'm taking our line from before, and I'm sticking thirds on top of most of those notes. So I'm going root, starting on the root, going up to the third and back, so that's 3/16, root, third, root. Then sequencing that down, 7th, 2nd, 7th, which is the 2nd's the third of the 7th. Fun with numbers. So up to the third, up to the third, to the third off the sixth, which is the root, up to the third off the fifth, which is the flat seven. And then taking the next sequence and adding the thirds to that too. So you can hear from the accents I'm doing that we're still playing that original line. We're just adding some extra notes in there. And then for the last two beats there, rather than adding thirds, I've added fifths to a couple of those notes. So we're going fifth, second, which is the fifth of the fifth, back to the fifth, sixth, major third, which is the fifth of the sixth, and then seventh, second, which is the third of the seventh. So back to the thirds thing. So thirds, 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 fifths, fifths, third, and then we're back to the top. So it's pretty simple. There's no chromaticism or anything happening. It's all just Lydian dominant off the D. So here we go a little bit faster with the same crazy drum beat, just for fun. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, let's try this at full speed. Exercise 2 with the crazy drums. 1, 2, 3, 4. So the way I program this drum beat for exercise 2 is more like the experience you have if you and the drummer are both playing a polyrhythm together. It's also good to be familiar with what happens in a situation more like exercise 1, the drum beat we're hearing there, where the drummer's keeping time and just following you with the kick drum. And actually we could do this, we could play exercise 2 with the exercise 1 drum beat. Let's try that a little bit at full speed. 1, 2, 3, 4. So like I said, we're basically just taking this one concept, the 4/3 polyrhythm, 3 beats with 4 groups of 3/16 notes moving through it, so we get 4 even hits over 3 beats. But how many times you loop it over how long of a figure, what the drummer is doing in relationship to you, etc., creates a lot of possible variation without even looking outside of this one polyrhythmic concept. You could even take it further. In last week's lesson we did a 1-bar figure. This week we did a 2-bar figure. You could do a 3-bar figure or 4-bar figure. What'll happen if you loop it further, just you'll have to kind of do the math on your own to make sense of it, but if you have 3 bars of 4/4, that's 12 beats total. Well, now you can see that since 12 is the lowest common denominator of 3 and 4, that's another place where this 4/3 polyrhythm is going to land. So after 3 bars of 4/4, you'll have gone through 4 repetitions of the 4/3 polyrhythm. So you have to be a little bit interested in math to make your way through all this stuff, but luckily it's math that you learned when you were very young and you don't have to know anything fancy. It's just making sense of the numbers, because rhythm is part of the mathematical element of music that we're always hearing. So that's it. Go forth and be saucy with polyrhythms. If you have a drummer friend, this is a great thing you guys can practice together. Or if not, just practice with a metronome and a drum machine and get the feel for it. And then you can find yourself being a little bit more rhythmically adventurous and moving accents around. And so not every bass line has the same 4 on the floor kind of rhythmic thing going on. Thank you guys for watching. I appreciate your viewership. I like making these for you. I hope that they're helpful. Appreciate all your kind comments. For those of you who would like to support me in continuing to make these free videos, you can check out my Patreon page and see the rewards there that you can get for contributing relatively small amount per video, for cool rewards, music downloads, and cool other stuff that you can read about on the page. You can also donate through joshfossgreen.com, PayPal or Venmo. And I'm working on a new book which will be available sometime this year. And until then, I'm going to keep telling you about it at the end of every video. I'm really excited about it. I think that you guys are going to dig it. So stay subscribed and keep your eyes peeled for that. Be excellent to each other and party on, dudes.